Everyone, my name's Lionel. I'm your host, Felty Productions, and you are watching I Watch Watch. Today we are covering Beauty in Black Season 3, currently streaming on Netflix. Please go on over to Netflix and run them numbers up. I appreciate everyone for coming to my channel. Please like this video in support of me. You can also subscribe and leave your comments below. Let's get into Season 3, Episode 2. All right, y'all. So at the end of last week's episode, or the last episode, Rain was introducing herself and all that good stuff, and Gina kind of busts through, just saying, well, there's a little bit more to the story, and we need to talk. Rain ain't feeling it, but anyways, she gets on back there to her office, and Gina just tells her what's up. She said, you know, this isn't just your club. And of course, Rain was like, what are you talking about? I paid it. Basically, Gina says, look, Delinda owes my boss a lot of money. We are partners in this whole deal, and y'all got to pay up. And Rain is like, I don't care. I was like, Lord. Gina's at this point want to just have a conversation, but Rain isn't really feeling it. So at this point, since Gina's been dismissed, she said, okay, now you done pissed me off. Now, we've already seen Gina get upset and be pissed at Olivia just for not having money on time. And Gina did come to her a little bit more decent. Did she have to interrupt what she had going out there? No. But at the same point, she wanted to, and excuse me for yawning, she wanted just to have a decent conversation and say, hey, there's a lot that comes with this club, and it's just not yours. I don't care what that young man may have given over to you. He just didn't tell you about me. And she said, it's not really me you have to be worried about, it's my boss. And we find out it's with the mafia. Olivia, you borrowed some money from the mafia, but I think you got a gambling problem, so none of it matters as long as you get your next high with this gambling. Anyways, Gina leaves. The other security guys, Michael and Jay, are like, look, I think we should have really had a conversation. I don't care. And they said there's a lot that comes with this club that you don't know about. Whatever. She just got in her mind that I'm boss. Obviously, there are repercussions that are going to be happening to her. I think she's going to get up on out of here. Now, you don't particularly annoy me that much, Rain. Angel does, and Sylvie does. Angel, you know, we're going to talk about you a little bit later because you are weird. Okay, yeah, because it's so crazy. I think he done forgot that he has a child. And of course, when we last seen it, oh girl, the baby mama was really trying to push you up out of his life. But come on, sir. Anyways, we'll get to him. So back at the jail, Roy and Agent Paul are talking. At this point, Roy is saying, hey, I can tell you what I know. What's in it for me? Agent Paul said that if you tell me something that I don't know already, then you got to jail. If not, of course you're going to be in here. Royce basically said, I'm not telling you anything because that's not any type of safe guarantee. Agent Paul notices that Roy is fidgeting and, of course, highlights that I know you're fidgeting because you're coming off your high and you're going to start withdrawing. You're going to need to tell us what's up, or tell me what's up, because you're going to need me. But Roy doesn't give in, and they say, enjoy your withdrawal. Crazy. Okay, Alex is getting fixed up. Whomever must be close to him. They're asking him what happened. He says, never mind in regards to all of that. He doesn't want to talk about it. Traxon calls Alex and says, oh, you betrayed me, blah, 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 blah. And I can't wait to get into that ASS. Then Traxon said, well, Jules is out. Now, I don't think that he believed him, but, you know, he wanted to make sure. Alex calls Kimmy and says, hey, is Jules out? And she says, no. Okay. He was just checking, blah, 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 blah. Kimmy says, where's Rain? At the club. Well, you need to be with her. He's like, well, I can't really do it right now. And she said that that wasn't as much of an offer. You need to be there now. And he said, okay. I don't think he went. Yeah, he did go down there. Okay, remember the Mexican Colombian dude from last season that's a dancer that Varney started hooking up with? Well, he got his sister Adeline. She was a part of season 1 regarding what happened to Dega and her sister or roommate, whichever one it was. Well, anyways, make sure y'all check that out. I believe that that's going to be on Hulu. Let's see. So one of them said, "So it's over," because I think Varney at this point explained what's happening, and Varney said yes. Adeline was saying how we know it's really over, blah 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 blah. Evan's trying to talk some sense into her, and she said, "Oh, you're too trusting. I know you're tight." Blah 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 blah. Blah, blah. So he likes black tall men with 11 to 12 inches of. Yeah. Adeline is like, look, I know y'all trying to say that everything's fine, but I witnessed 2 murders. Ah. um, tell me that we are safe and free, meaning I can walk up out of here and be safe and free. Da 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 da. Kenneth said, yeah. I said, Kenneth? No, Barney said, yes. So at this point, Barney was like, look, you can go to the hotel or whatnot, and we can finish this conversation in the morning. It wasn't contentious or anything. Just Adeline having a lot of questions because it's hard when you come out of that type of traumatic situation to be okay. If Kimmy reacts in a certain way on film for the rest of her life, I'm going to make sure that I'm not judging her in regards to all that. But anyways, where we at? Evan's like, let me stay here. And Varney said, no. Evan basically is taking the more aggressive approach with Varney. He said, look, I'm going to drop off my sister and I'm going to come back here. Now I'm going to be here. Answer the door. But any other way, I'm not leaving and I'm going to get into this home. So, look. So basically said, I'll take my sister to the hotel, and then I'm coming back, puppy. Anyways. Norman and Jules. Basically, you can tell that Norman has something working in his favor. Because they are in the cells. And both of them had on suits with ties. And I guess that's never good to actually have. And I mean, with the ties, you could use that as a strangulation type of tool. So I definitely get that. But basically, both of them are peeping game on each other. Is that they're plotting and scheming with one another. Later on, Roy comes back in. Where do I have that? Okay. He goes back to his cell and he starts withdrawing. Norman is working him, get him up. Let's tell this, da 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 da. No, I need you to tell me about my wife and what his plot was towards my wife, Jules. He tells him what happened, da 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 da. At this point, I do believe what Travis Malloy is saying in regards to what's happening in St. Louis regarding even content creating. Norman keeps baiting Roy, stating, look, I can get you what you want. Look, you see me with the cell phone? Norman ends up calling the boss and saying, come and get me now, da 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 da, or you could set it up a different way, but make sure it's now. He tells Roy, look, I can get anything I want, as you see with this phone. Just tell me what he did. Of course, he tells everything that happened, da 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 da, and then he reneges because what Roy needs right now is a drug because he's withdrawn. He threw up twice in the pee thing. Now, I need someone to talk to me. Because Mr. Julian, who plays Roy, he was touching that seat. Couldn't be me. Could not be me. When he knelt down to throw up in the toilet. Oh, no. But I'm sure that particular, what do you want to call it, stall or whatever was clean. That part was clean. I get it. But in the real world, yeah. Yeah, let me go back. Alex goes by the club, courtesy of Kimmy, and of course he tells her about Gina, because I think he got word, or she may even said anything. You need to talk to Gina. Oh, girl, still ain't happening. Like she's not there right now for whatever reason. Um, you should be scared of her boss, Mafia. Da 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 da. She don't listen. Okay. Charles, he goes by Mallory's house. He's asking for a 250K loan. And of course, she's like, "Are you out of your mind?" Da 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 da. Tell me what's going on. He won't say what's going on. But he's just spiraling right now and feels like he needs some help. But everyone's like turning on him. And he was really displaying that or acting that out here. But anyways, it was just like nobody's giving me money. Nobody cares what I'm going through. Da 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 da. I'm going to KILL myself. That's happened more than once, But anyways, from any age group. Oof. Anyways, Mallory wanted him to talk, but he wasn't really giving up anything. Tell me about what you did, because he was still in that stage of letting that person on in regards to their involvement with the project. Da 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 da. He ends up just saying, "F y'all, F y'all," and he walks out the door. Mallory's begging for him to stay, but he's not really listening. Mallory ends up calling Varney. Evan came back and was in bed, and that's when old girl called him, saying, "Look, you gotta get over to Charles right now," after finding out certain things that he did that Charles knows. So I don't think it's gonna be explosive, but it'll be something to see how those two navigate through this. Yeah, Evan comes back and gets into bed. So at this point, they got to get up and go to Charles, and we'll talk about that in a second. I forgot where Alex is at. Oh, no, Jackson. He comes to the strip joint looking for Alex. The security guard who's on Team Alex's side is siding with him and not giving him up. He did ask, what did Alex do? And what Jackson said is that he betrayed him. Really? Like, it's more deeper. He can't really go into details in regards to everything that's going on. Whatever. Then Michael calls Alex because what Michael did is detour him or put him on a certain path, not to meet with King or with Alex. But obviously it's a setup in regards to what's happening. He said, go to this Korean restaurant. Of course, he said, oh, well, if I'm out and about and all that, I can understand that, but there's no way. If I don't have this charger. So anyways, he's thinking about going to the Korean restaurant. Kimmy and Sylvie. Please send Sylvie on her way. That's all I gotta say. It's over, right? Yes, it's over, girl. Kimmy says, I'm sorry about Glenn. She says, I am too. Thank you. And Sylvie's just like, look, I don't know if I could really live like this. Live like what, girl? Live like holding secrets and all that? It's just like I'm back at home. And I don't like that. You're quite nonchalant even about Glenn. Like, I don't even know who you are. And Kimmy was like, yes, there's a different person that's coming out of me right at this point. I had to survive. And you will survive. She ended up letting it slip that she was with old dude's father. So and that's Jules. Anyways, there's a little bit of an argument between Sylvie and Kimmy in regards to all this. I apologize for the pauses. We'll be over in just a second. Sylvie's upset because they're still going back and forth and says, I'm going to go up to my room and go to sleep. And she said, that's the best thing you could do. Yeah, but get rid of Sylvie. I don't want her to DIE, but have her do something else, please. Back at the jail cell, let's see. Oh, we already did that. Mallory and Varney. Yeah, you need to check on Charles. Varney asks for Evan to come with him. That's going to be messy. So then Evan and Varney, they have a conversation in the car. You know, since they're free, he was wondering if him and the sister would be able to go back to the club to strip. Varney said, I don't know, that's not for me to allow happen. But you got to speak to the right people in regards to that. He's like, well, what can I do for money? Because all I know is dancing. He said, I just want to make you happy. Varney was like, well, wait, no, Evan ended up saying, you know, as far as even if I go back dancing, won't that bother you? And Varney had to say, well, we're not dating. It's just sex. So don't predicate anything upon what we're doing. Evan points out that Varney still loves Charles because there's no way that you're driving for this length of time at night if you weren't in love with him. Evan asks, you know, why am I here? And Vernon said, because I want you here. Olivia's in her jail cell and she's talking to an FBI agent and she's like, look, I need some water at this time right now. Blah, 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 blah. Of course, the security guard is not really taking her that serious. She said, I need my pain medication. But anyways, she has a bunkmate on the other side of the room. And hopefully people are going back to this episode a little bit just to hear some of the stuff that's being said. But anyways, Olivia meets Olivia, who is her bedmate. Then she starts saying, you owe Gina, blah, 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 because I think Olivia didn't want to make friends or whatever. And of course, that really gagged Olivia at this point. And then Lindsay said, tick, tock, tick, tock. When she thinks that she's going to be alive and all of that, it's not really working out for her. Angel with Horace. He tries to plead his case to a silent Horace. He said, look, I'll do anything not to lose your companionship. Horace, of course, is just very staunch in his face features, but at this point, he's getting really tired. And he ends up and then he ends up punching him again. And at this point, Angel wants to strike him and all that. But yeah, he's still doing this whole, I'll do anything, da 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 da, and Norman ends up walking out of the room. Norman, Jules, and Roy. Roy is still throwing up. Give me what I need, Roy. Jules took his wife to the junkyard. She was still alive, blah, 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 blah. She was in a trunk. Norman said, you had my wife in a trunk? Yeah. And of course, I already said Norman reneged and lied, basically, on what was supposed to happen in regards to the show. So Evan and Varney, they pull up to the Bel Air estate where Charles is at. Oh girl, the sister Sylvie, she ends up clocking in first. And then, of course, he gets Varney's attention and they run into the home because of what happened. Charles is there, I said, my God. Lord, our first main murder. Oh, gosh. Ooh, that hurt my heart right then and there. I just don't know in regards to that because I root for Charles in some ways. Not all the ways because there's a lot of things that are really wrong with him. But we shall see if this is the end or not in the next episode. I appreciate everyone for coming to my channel. Like, comment, and subscribe. And until the next one, peace.